Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Your weekend is not complete without the First Lady of New York Radio. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show, and we hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving holiday. But before you even ate the last of the leftovers, it's time for Hanukkah and for Christmas and for all the other holidays that are coming along. The city never looked better. The lights are up. The department store windows are great. And the Christmas tree lighting is always one of the big events. So there's so much going on. And we have such good guests. We're going to celebrate one of the new hot television shows with major stars coming in to visit us. I'm going to take you to one of my favorite food stores, which I know you're going to love. This time of year, when it's crisp outside, it's a good time to visit places like Schaller and Weber, where you go to the little open window they have next to the retail store, and you can smell and hear the sizzle of the homemade wursts. And they serve them on warm pretzel rolls with homemade sauerkraut and mustard. Just delicious. And you can take yourself ice skating right back of the public library. And if you've got skates, it's free. But if you don't have skates, it's a good idea to call up and reserve them to rent. And then you pay for them. But it's so much fun. It's a great thing to do. And the city is saying, absolutely welcome. So we're going to all celebrate every holiday there is by rejoicing in, let's not think of the negative, let's think of the positive, the things that we all have to be thankful for. And it could just be a beautiful day. It can be anything. But it's not New Year's and we're not making resolutions, but I know I'm going to really try to seize the moment, and I hope you do too, and relish all the good things that are surrounding us that sometimes we forget to look and to rejoice, but hopefully we'll be able to do that, okay? And I'm thinking of each and every one of you, and we're going to have a great time holding hands and getting us all through the next series of holidays with joy. I'm Joan Hamburg, and lots of shows straight ahead. Stay tuned.
The First Lady of New York Radio.
This is Joan Eats.
If you have never been to the shop I'm going to tell you about, then there's no better time than holidays or pre-holidays. I'm talking about the remnants of what was once a thriving German town. That's what we called it when we were kids. Schaller and Weber, 1654 2nd Avenue. And it's opened Monday through Saturday from 10 to 8 and Sunday noon to 6. It is the staple on the Upper East Side for German and European food and culture. It is really like a house party every time you go. They have a butcher shop where people line up to get all kinds of stuff. They have the best advent calendars. Everything you can think of is in this store. And then next to it is like a window where they sell their homemade sausage, bratwurst on homemade pretzel rolls and sauerkraut and a delicious mustard. I can't resist, and you won't be able to do it either. And they have something quite great. If you're looking for an unusual food gift to send people, instead of the usual, and there's nothing wrong with oranges and apples and that stuff. We love it. But Schaller and Weber has a terrific holiday gift box. It's their Christmas box, and it includes their famous marzipan, that wonderful imported German candy, all kinds of mousse. Their mousse de foie gras, it includes things from the Best Cheese Company and walnuts, honey, extra virgin olive oil, all kinds of goodies sent in a commemorative wooden Schaller and Weber crate. They have great gift suggestions. If you're giving a gift to a gourmet or someone who's really into pâté, their pâté sampler is $58.99. And actually, when Ferdinand Schaller opened the shop in 1937, he was all into the best charcuterie around. And it's happened. They have the best charcuterie. And a thing that most people don't know about, their fried chicken is legendary. It's delicious. So you've got a couple of ways to go. Buy stuff for yourself to eat, buy it as gifts, try the pâté sampler as a gift, and each pack includes at least 6 different pâtés. So Schaller and Weber, a treat all the time, and especially over the holidays. 1654 2nd Avenue, 212-879-3047. And make sure you try the little window that opens next door where you can get that homemade, whether it's a bratwurst or whatever, with the sauerkraut and that melt-in-your-mouth pretzel roll. It's fun. And it is the remnants of which was a thriving German neighborhood. So enjoy. I'm Joan Hamburg, and we have much more after this.
Taking you behind the curtain. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show. And you are all lucky because you are going to meet one of the stars of the hottest new TV show. It's the new CBS police drama called East New York. And everyone is talking about it. First of all, it was top secret. You would try to get members of the cast, people who were on the production side. They wouldn't talk about it. But word of mouth was big. And Richard, this is great. Richard Kind is a fabulous actor. He does everything. He's a comedian. But as I was telling all you guys, he's very funny, but he's also one of the best actors that we have. And that's everything from TV to Broadway. Even
You're
nominated.
only saying this because we're related.
I know, but it's okay. It's true. Everyone
like
in the family.
You're like my mom.
She was right. I mean, you're all the best. My son keeps saying to me, we can't all be that good. You've got to give us a break. I say, look, you're perfect. What are we going to do?
Right. Every mother has the perfect son. So we all have to be that great.
You are, but I think the audience would love to know you had a family business and you wanted to be an actor. And I forgot, as long as I've really known you, you've been performing. But was this something you wanted early on?
When in 5th or 6th grade, I think it was 5th grade, I played Fagin in Oliver in the class play. It was a nothing play.
Right.
And somehow I really liked acting. I don't know whether it was ego. I don't know whether I liked being another person. I don't know what it was, but I really, really liked it. And I remember singing the song, In This Life, One Thing Counts, the song from Oliver, and being absolutely alone on stage and walking back and forth and just having the audience in the palm of my hand, and they were all listening to me. That, if you want to know, I can name the point when I started to want to be an actor. Now, as you well know, most Jewish kids from the suburbs are raised to not be an actor or go into athletics or be a rock star. They're born to take over the family business.
Right.
Well, I had no intention of being an actor. I had a dream, but no real intention. And then I was supposed to go to law school, and my dad's best friend, who lived at 2 houses away, it was Sunday afternoon. We're watching football. There was a commercial, or maybe it was halftime, and he said, "You've got to try acting for a year, because when you're 40, you will resent your life, you'll resent your wife, you'll resent your kids, everybody who prevented you from doing what you dreamed of doing." And I'll admit I had some talent, not nearly the talent that I grew into, but I had some talent. I still loved it. I got work. I tried it for a year, and a year turns into 2, into 4, and now I'm this age. And all of a sudden, and I got to admit, I don't think I was, when I look back at it, I don't think I was very good. I think I had energy. I think that I have a certain charisma or a likability.
Right. You were funny.
And then
always.
I just became a better actor. You know, you do it enough, you got to become better.
But do you think that you went to Northwestern, as I recall?
Yes.
And which is a great school for performing. But then you went off to Chicago.
Yes.
And
I was a pre-law major at Northwestern. I was supposed to go into law, which my dad said, if you want to come into the business, you got to go to law school, get a dual degree in law and business, because he felt that he would have been a much better businessman if he had done that. He was a great salesman, but he always worried about what a businessman he was. So he wanted me to do that. And I said I would do it. And so I was pre-law. And then his friend said, try acting, which really was the killer for my father, although my father supported me 110%.
But when they say try acting, I mean, we all know we have actors in the family, and not everyone as successful as you. But you, when I look back, it didn't seem to take that long. Mad About You, Curb, Spin City.
Well, okay. You got 4 years in New York doing off Broadway, doing nothing, going on tour with a children's theater with a decent play, but it was for adults too, but it was Daniel Boone. So I cut my chops. When I was finished those 4 years in New York, I went to Second City. I was 4.5 years there. So all of a sudden, I'm 31 years old, and I go to L.A. And I got work immediately in L.A. I booked a series. Then I booked Carolyn. I booked another series. Then I booked Mad About You. Then I booked.
You had an agent by this time, right?
Well, yes, I have an agent. You know, everybody thinks, "Oh, do you have an agent?"
You're okay. Yeah.
An agent doesn't open doors. An agent shows you where the door is. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got it. You got to go. Everybody, you know, you're quite a well-known figure in show business. People know Joan Hamburg, but your son got to where he is because he was good, because he worked hard, and he made his own opportunities. But you can't say, I can't believe that he's where he is today because of you. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
of course.
And it's not an agent. It's not an agent who got it. He worked hard, showed promise, wrote, got a chance to direct, lived up to his abilities, and is now one of the most successful men in Hollywood.
Yeah,
right. And it wasn't his agent that did it. What?
I said it's hard to believe, but you're absolutely right.
I know. It wasn't his agent. It was he who worked really hard, and thank God his talent matched up to his ambition. But I always look at Amadeus. Salieri tried and tried, had so many. Well, he had a modicum of success, but it was Mozart who was successful.
Right.
You know,
absolutely
you can always say,
right.
"Oh, do you have a good agent? Do you have an agent?" Agents don't do anything. Agents show you where the door is. You got to open it. You got to stick your foot in there and say, I'm here.
And you did, and it worked.
It does work. Talent will out, but you got to have talent. I don't believe in what's the word? What's the word when nepotism? I don't believe in nepotism. I don't believe in going to parties and meeting people. What I believe is going and doing a play or making a short film or doing stuff on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. If you're an actor, look, anybody can become famous on TikTok.
Right.
All you got to do is be pretty or have a gimmick. But if you really want to be an actor, you got to become good before you become rich and famous. That's a really important thing. And if you become rich and famous before you're any good, you'll last maybe 3 or 4 years, and you better save your money.
So your first big TV break, that was just you knowing there was an audition and going for it?
My agent sent me up for it, and I went. And I proved to be okay. And it was a show called, you'll never believe it, but there's a very funny story. It's called Unsub. And you're going to say, what?
Yeah,
and I used to call it Unsub what? Unsub. It's Unsub stood for Unknown Subject, UNSUB. This was, you must understand me, all the procedurals you see now, SVU or Law and Order, all of those shows?
Right.
This was the first. This was the first procedural. It was around 1982, 1983. A guy named Stephen Cannell, who did the A-Team and shows like that. He produced this show. It was very violent, and it was the first procedural. And whenever I see Peter Roth, who just up until this year ran Warner Brothers, he used to run Steve Cannell's company. And whenever I see him, he always holds out his arms and he goes, "We were the first." And it only lasted 10 episodes back in 83. But that was, so you're thinking 40 years ago, that was the first one, the first procedural, and then other shows came after.
Wow. But then tell me about East New York, which is really,
Well,
everyone's
East New York
talking
is,
about
now,
it.
okay. Now, this is very funny. I have had a long, and I'm in the area code of distinguished career. Not exactly distinguished, but I'm in the area code. I've done some really great movies, and I've been lucky to do really good TV shows. This is, praying, so far for me it is, a crown jewel. It is a wonderful, wonderful police drama for our times. It is not a procedural. It's a drama. There's about 8 major characters. It's like NYPD Blue for today. And I am playing a cop, and it's not funny. And I'm hoping that when people see the show or see coming attractions, see trailers, they don't think they're going to see it. They're going to think they're seeing a comedy, because it's by no means a comedy. It's about a woman of color who becomes the captain of a precinct in the worst neighborhood in New York, which is East New York, which is in Brooklyn. And it's and everybody says, "Oh, are you a good cop or a bad cop?" There are no bad cops on this show. There are cops who have flaws, but they want their society, they want their community, they want to uphold the law, and they're policemen. And if you ask me, a great percentage of policemen want to do just that in the world. But unfortunately, they're not as interesting in the newspaper. What's interesting is the bad cop. That's an interesting thing. Unfortunately, in our show, the cops try and do good. It's the criminals who are bad, and we concentrate on them.
So, Richard, I'm talking to Richard Kind, and we're talking about the new CBS drama. In this, you're playing Stan Yanko, who is a police captain. Did you have to hang out with the cops to get what's behind it, or?
I got to say, well, first of all, you don't have to do anything like that. You can use your imagination. I have not yet hung out with some cops. The woman who plays the lead happens to have a boyfriend in New Orleans, who indeed is a policeman, and the other cops, because she was working. She did a couple of movies in New Orleans, which is where she met him, and so she did ingratiate herself into that community and learned a lot about it. So she's lucky. But when I say advisors, that's to minimize that. Policeman, well, one's a woman, one's a former captain of New York police, and I've talked to them quite a bit. I find out the hierarchy. I find out what the jobs are, and I've spent hours talking to them, asking them questions about what is what's it like to be a cop. What do you do? I hope sometime, after we finish. After the show gets off the ground, maybe I'll ingratiate myself into the community and try and get to ride some night with some of the cops. It's not what I do on the show; that's what others do. But my history on the show is that's indeed what I did. But here's an interesting thing: whenever you ask a cop, what is the most realistic cop show ever on TV? You know what they say?
What?
Take a guess.
I can't imagine, because we have a lot of good cop shows.
Barney Miller.
No, I never, ever would have guessed that.
Of course not, because that's the comment. But they say if you want to know what sort of the life of a policeman is,
go to Barney Miller.
Barney Miller. You sit around, you joke, and then when things happen, things happen. We it's not always cut to the apartment building where somebody's got somebody hostage or this and that. It's a lot of sitting around or sitting in cars or keeping the beat or, monitoring your neighborhood where nothing's happening because you're there and nothing's happening. But a police drama shows the bookends of those quiet times.
Wow, I'm talking to Richard Kind. And Richard is one of the stars of the new CBS drama called East New York. I know when you make a movie, they, the part of the process is inviting random audiences, screening it, and trying to get the audience judgment. Do they do that, like with a show like this?
It doesn't get picked up unless you do that.
So that's part of it.
They have test groups, and it was tested, and CBS certainly liked the show. Then when it got good reaction from these test groups, then they pick it up. But you have so many shows that go through that process.
Right, and
we were very lucky. Now, from what I understand, we were voted the #1 new show, but network show on the new schedule that's coming out. Joan, when I tell you, and I am very critical of a lot of the things I do, this is it's superior acting, and I will tell you something. The one of the producers is also a director with quite the great resume that goes back to the Bochco era and stuff like that. His name is Mike Robin. So a lot of times I get asked what I like to direct. After seeing the pilot, I can tell you I never want to direct because Mike was so brilliant in fashioning this show to a modern percussive, almost a rap beat, that it just moves ahead so much. It's not what I saw at all. I see the 70s and, let's say, Blue Bloods, which is a very good show of its type.
Very good.
But this moves. It's quick cutting. It's of our day. And Joan, you and I were not raised in this type of entertainment. It just moves differently.
I can't wait.
He was brilliant. He was brilliant in the way that he cut it. When you watch a music video, you know how it just moves forward. It's got 3 minutes to move forward and help sell the song. This is 50 minutes of moving forward and telling the story. and it just is always on the balls. That's just how it is. It's so good.
I can't wait. But Richard, tell
Yeah,
me, is
it's
it up and running or it's starting soon?
It will premiere October 2nd. We have
Uh-huh.
just finished our third episode here in town. Either our third or fourth episode. And, it takes a couple, especially this show, because it's edited, within an instrument because it just moves. But it premieres October 2nd, 9 o'clock on Sunday nights.
Wow.
So,
I cannot
what
wait.
you'll have is you'll have Sunday afternoon football leading
Right.
into 60 minutes, leading into the equalizer, and then we come. So if the game goes longer, it could be 9:30.
Well, it sounds really great. So when you get a show like this,
Yeah.
and you're taping it as you go along, do you
Yeah.
do other things too, or you concentrate on this?
Well, that's a very good question. That can be answered by my agent. Here's what happens is I love doing all different types of things, as you well know. You
Yes.
see me do, I've done an opera at Lincoln Center. I do radio plays. I do live theater. I do musicals. I do dramas. I do, guest spots on all different types of shows. I happen to love that. However, when a series presents itself, I am beholden to their schedule. Whether or not I'm available on a certain day, let's say things change. Let's say you're supposed to shoot a scene outside and it's raining. You can't shoot it outside, so they switch days. I am always loyal to
To the
my
show.
job for which I have a contract for. But will I be doing other things? Absolutely. For instance, I'm doing something at the Triad Theater. I'm going to tell you when it is. It is on the 19th of September. I'm doing a two-person show. You know Jackie Hoffman, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Jackie Hoffman and I are doing a two-person show called Kip and Sylvia. And it's just a tryout. A great, great, great writer. Wrote on Seinfeld, wrote on Cheers. A guy named Tom Leopold wrote this thing. He wrote all the songs. And we're going to try it out on that Monday night at 7 o'clock and at 9 o'clock. It's an hour and 10 minutes. It's
Okay,
a
we'll
lark.
have to go.
It's fun. Yeah, if you want to come see it, it's a very limited tickets.
Audience,
But,
yeah.
you see that. And I do all sorts of things. I was on a show called The Other Two. I think I'm going to be doing an episode of that later, early next. If I can do Curb, I have no idea, but I love
I know
Curb
we
Your
loved you in Curb.
Yeah, I love it. Now, it's all of whether Larry has written a part for me, but my producers love that show, and they told me, hey, if they wrote a part for you, we'll let you off for the 2 or 3 days, and I'll go do Curb. I just
Great.
love doing everything.
I know,
really
and
do.
you're
I
good
like,
at it.
it keeps, and if you do a TV show, I'm not going to say it becomes monotonous because it certainly isn't, especially this one, but it's the same character and the same genre, and I know what my part is. So if I can do readings of something else,
You're
just,
happy.
a week longer, I'll do it. Of course, it's such a fun thing to tackle other things.
Well, it's all great.
Yeah, I'm a very lucky. You know what? At my age, with my resume, which is mainly comic, to get this show, an hour cop show, where I don't have to wait for a laugh or try and get a laugh on every
That's
third
so
line.
tough.
What a
Right.
blessing! What a blessing
know,
of
so
my
glad.
career.
East
the
New
luckiest
York.
guy in the world.
Well,
Yes.
you're also one of the most talented guys in the world, and that certainly does help. By the way, before I let you go, how's your golf? Richard happens to be a great golfer.
I used to be a great golfer. Then I had 3 children, and children can ruin your golf game because you got to spend time with them and not time on the golf course.
I know the golf course is very demanding.
But for what I look like, I'm a very good golfer, and I just got new clubs, PXGs. I will. This is like a plug for PXGs. They are as good as they say. PXGs
Really?
are fantastic. Oh my God, just even when if you're not that good a golfer, the sweet spot is just huge on their clubs, and it's just great. They're wonderful clubs, and I am in there. I hope to be playing until
you can't. Okay.
Yeah, until I can. Right.
All right. Lots of love.
You do the same thing. And how are you? Are you good?
I'm good. Everything's good.
I'm glad.
And we'll talk soon. And before you do your show with Jackie, we'll give it a plug. So let me know.
You got it. All right.
Okay.
And remember, October 2nd, East New York.
Okay, we're ready. Thank
hope.
you, Richard.
Joan,
Cousin
I love
Richard
you.
Kind.
I love you so much.
Too.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. I'm Joan Hamburg. That's Richard Kind, a member of the family, but one of the great actors, comedians, and a TV show that everyone is talking about, East New York. Stay tuned. There's lots more ahead. You're listening to ABC.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg. Entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome to the Joan Hamburg Show, and a real treat for you today. Wonderful actor Andrew Polk, who's probably one of the busiest working actors that I know, is doing and has done everything from Broadway to television to you name it. Andrew has done it, and he's now co-starring in a new movie with Anthony Hopkins and Anne Hathaway and Jeremy Strong called Armageddon Time, and it's a really interesting film. It makes you think a lot. It's about a group of kids and how certain things that happen in your life at that time can change the course of your life. The young stars are dealing with issues that you don't really think about that sixth graders might be dealing with. And Andrew, in this film, plays a sixth grade teacher called Mr. Turkeltaub, teaching at a public school in Queens, New York. And it's written and directed by James Gray. And it's his autobiographical story and what it's like growing up in a middle-class Jewish home in Flushing. And I'm sure that if they looked at Flushing today, the heart of Chinese restaurants, they wouldn't realize this was their Flushing. And your character, Andrew, was a teacher who really had an impact upon some of these lives where they didn't forget them even today. So for you, in terms of this film, how did it come about? Your agent called or you knew about it, wanted to go for it?
Sure. My agent called. I had an audition for it, and I was very excited because it was James Gray, whose work I was a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
I somehow tapped into something really very real when I auditioned, and I'm glad that James Gray and I seemed to be on the same page there, and I was cast, and later learned about that incredible cast that I got to be part of, and that's how it came about.
And after you read the movie,
yeah.
Now you grew up in California, but
right.
A friend of yours, an actor too,
yeah,
actually grew up where this movie took place in Flushing.
Yes, I read the script. First of all, the script was clearly brilliant, right off the page. You're like, wow, this is fantastic and rich and complex, and you don't run across scripts that well written very often. So it was very clearly a great film on paper, and this is an autobiographical story about James Gray's life, and this teacher was a real person. And so I called my friend Amy Ryan, who's a very dear friend of mine, and I knew she grew up in Queens and near Flushing, and I said, look, it says here in the script, PS 173 is where it takes place. By any chance, is that where you went to school? And she said, oh, yeah.
That's so
and I went, okay, now here's a shot in the dark, Amy. You didn't happen to have a teacher named Mr. Turkletaub, did you? And she said, yep, that was my teacher.
Oh, my Lord.
And then she sent me a picture of her, and it
With
was
him?
actually in fifth grade with an enormous amount of students, class photo, and Mr. Turkletaub standing there looking, a little tense.
Right.
And
Aggravated.
it kind of looked like he was maybe ready to retire. And with the 42 children, including Amy Ryan, and I had subsequently run across a couple other people who had him as a teacher. So it's great, that this was a real person, and I got to, dig into that.
Right, and to work with James Gray, which is special, right?
James Gray is so fantastic to work with. And he's such a great filmmaker. I mean, so both of those things put together made it a really great experience for me, and I know for everyone else. And I think it shows in the film how I think he's really getting the, if I may say, getting the best work out of everyone. He's a delight to work with.
And what brought you many years ago? You grew up in California, I think Berkeley. And
that's right.
What brought you to New York? Was acting part of your DNA from the time you were a young kid?
It really was part of my DNA, and I had relatives in New York, so we would always travel back to New York every year. And my grandparents lived here, my aunt and uncles, everyone was here, and I always loved it. And I thought, even as a kid, I'm like, I got to move here someday. I got to be here. So I went to college on the East Coast, and then I trained in London, and then I got a job right away, luckily, in New York, and I've been in New York ever since. I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, you're a New Yorker, and you're a working New Yorker, too.
Yeah. Yes, knock on wood. Yes, it's great. I'm very fortunate.
No, and you live here, which is interesting, because so many actors I know have to bite the bullet and go back to L.A., which they're always apologizing for, but...
That's funny. I spent some time in L.A. It's it is what it is. It's an inevitable part of our business. So, and I've worked there, but, I love New York, and I love working in New York even more.
Yeah. Well, it is a really special place, but it's interesting too. Now, how old are your own children?
Well, interesting you should ask that. My children are 11 and 8.
So they're close to what the kids, some of the
my
kids
daughter
are.
is exactly the age of the kids I was teaching in the movie, and I think it was there was a sort of a quality of sitting on your last nerve that I, for some reason, was able to tap into for this role pretty easily. So there's, I didn't have to do too much stretching, and when you're playing a role where you're trying to teach 42 kids, every subject, including Jen, with no teacher's aid. It was a time, and the movie was during a time, it was like 1980, when there were big budget cuts in the school system. Immigration had just sort of happened, and teachers were being asked to do so much. So there was a quality of corralling and being with kids that age that felt pretty natural to me.
But, it was really interesting, because as I'm watching this film, I kept thinking, what happened along the way to James Gray in his head where he had to make this film? And did he ever talk about it?
Yes, he has. I can, always, better talk to him about it. But from what he said, it's really, he was at a place, I think, where he right after the pandemic or during, he was driving around the old neighborhood, and he realized there was nothing left of his family in his, that to remember, for his kids to understand where he came from. They had almost disappeared, and there was really no sign of them. Mm-hmm. And so he brought his kids back to Queens, to Flushing, to sort of drive around and show them the old neighborhood. And he got the idea of wanting to do something super personal. And I think it had come also on the heels of doing something where he had just done Ad Astra in space with Brad Pitt, and it felt like an instinct to bring, to write a story very close to home. And that it felt very, even though it was 1980, the issues in the movie felt unfortunately, very present today. The issues of morality, which he felt like in 1980, something changed in this country, where we went from the end of the 70s and the free speech movement and the civil rights, and we had come into. It felt like a watershed moment to him, where we went to a more materialistic place, and morality, which is a very Jewish kind of theme, what is right, what is wrong, very Talmudic, is going by the wayside, and he felt like to tell that story would be really resonant today, and I think he's right.
Right, and your character, he really gives a lot of dimension to, as you do too, because I went to public school in what was then a small town, really, but I still could, from your character, it brought back all the memories of those overburdened teachers trying to deal with rambunctious, we don't care kind of kids.
Right, right. There's that element. Yes, and I remember that when I was that age too. These giant classrooms, the teachers were
doing their best.
Doing their best. And in the case of my character, not very good.
Right. Well, he was definitely a little, he singled out, and we're not giving anything away, right? Because he picked on a black kid who apparently just rubbed him the wrong way. And you didn't know whether to feel sorry for him, which I varied in my feelings, or to say, hey, what's with you? But so
and I think yes, and I think a lot of people have mentioned that to me, and I'll let everyone make their own judgments about what if Mr. Turkeltaub was racist or just overworked. But I think I can say that it was real, and it really happened to James Gray, and the people who came to those schools without a safety net, who weren't as
protected.
There was no one to catch them. There was no. It was almost like they said, "Let's have integration in our schools," and there was no thought about how to do it. There weren't the resources to catch people and see them where they were, and I think it's kind of important because that's, I think, unfortunately, an issue today.
Yeah.
And so you can see the two kids, the black kid and the white kid, the Jewish kid, just slowly drift apart and go their separate ways. And it's funny, I had the same thing happen to me when I was a kid.
In California.
A very good friend of mine in grade school who was black, and you don't even know what happened. You just kind of drifted away.
Uh-huh.
And you know what I mean? So it really hit home for me, that situation.
Right, I'm sure. And you make it very real as the teacher. And the movie got a lot of appreciation and did very well. It made the Cannes Film Festival. Was that thrilling for
great.
you? Must have
Such
been
a thrill. It was a thrill, It was just. Unfortunately, I saw the movie for the first time while I was sitting at that big theater at Cannes, and all I could think of was, that's my big face up there at Cannes. I'm in Cannes. I'm in Cannes. So I wasn't really seeing the movie. I didn't, and I saw it again at the New York Film Festival where it premiered.
And it did well there.
Great. It was. And it was a different experience for me because I actually got to see the film and saw it.
Could see it and not just say, I'm in Cannes.
Yeah, that's all I could think of. I'm in Cannes. There's my face. I'm in Cannes. There's my face. And there's a lot of people taking pictures. And the red carpet is even crazier than you think it is there.
Now, did your
It was a lot.
family come?
I brought my beautiful wife Zoe,
Uh-huh.
and we had a great time. No, it didn't bring the kid. Maybe next time
Yeah.
when they're a little older.
No, that's right. They'll appreciate it more, but it still is a thrill. And it isn't as if you never work. You work all the time, but this was a different role for you and a departure from what you always do.
I think so. Yes, which is also always great to be, not doing the same thing, and being in a film this cohesive and this well done, where it's an ensemble piece, and everyone seems to be really moved by it and talking about it.
Right.
It's very gratifying to be part of that.
I bet. Did your kids ultimately see it?
No, I am not going to let my 8-year-old see it, but my 11-year-old, I'm going to let her see it.
Yeah. Well, that should be interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because she's of the age where, it's really a movie about like being a kid and for the first time seeing the world and having to make really big decisions about what you feel about the world, race and, what's right, what's wrong. And that's the age my daughter is.
Right. And to have to deal with that, you wonder. But it definitely can influence the path of a kid's life. And it makes you think,
right.
When you have children that age range, that there's a lot going on in those fertile brains. And you play a big role.
That's right. I do. And I like, in that, what really struck me, and I don't want to get too much into it, but the scene in the Guggenheim Museum.
Yeah, I love that when your kids are going.
He sees a Kandinsky painting.
And he was definitely a talented artist, the kid in the film.
Right, but no one saw him. No one could see him. There was not the space or the time or the attention to see this kid. All they could tell was that he was slow. And that really moved me. That you really just need one person to notice you where you are and to change your life. And that is an issue. That's a theme of the movie too.
Right, and your character, Mr. Turkeltaub, when you started investigating his life, he did reach the stage when he could retire, but unfortunately, fate played a worse role.
He had, as I understand it, he had a heart attack after he retired. Yeah. Which it just added more information to my backstory to help sort of understand and get under his skin a little bit about, maybe the stress he was under with this job and dealing with all these kids. And, I kind of did have the idea that at the place that the movie takes place, that he's about to retire, and he's hitting on his last nerve, really.
No, I think we all understood it. I'm telling you, we vary between feeling sympathy for this overburdened, stressed out teacher who, show me a little respect, and the kids had no intent of doing that.
No, and they were great kids, by the way.
They were good actors.
Terrific actors, delightful people, open and professional. Jalen and Banks, they were just fine actors on their own. Really great.
Well, it sounds great. So, Andrew, I'm talking to Andrew Polk, who's a movie you should see. Armageddon Time, plays a teacher, and it's all very real. Let me ask you, what now that the movie's up and out, what are you up to?
Well, I've just been working on a little bit of network television, doing some FBI on CBS.
Yeah, that's good. A hot show.
Hot show. So I just finished wrapping some of that, and I think there's an episode of Mrs. Maisel that I did that's going to come out for season 5, and then there are also a couple of movies I did that haven't come out yet that are about to come out. That's going to be interesting. One is called Space Oddity, directed by Kira Sedgwick with Kevin Bacon.
Oh, that's fun.
And another independent movie I did this summer called Peas and Carrots, which is a really fun movie And I also another movie about Sister Cabrini, which I did with John Lithgow and David Morse, which hasn't come out yet. So, looking forward to that stuff too.
All right, there's a lot. And after you finish doing this movie, Armageddon Time, did I look at your own kids? Is their worlds a lot different from the world of 1980?
Yes. They have extreme amount of privilege compared to the kids portrayed in the movie.
Uh-huh.
They have a great school, and they are seen for who they are. People are paying attention to them, and it's really very different than the school portrayed here, and both schools. That later he goes to a private school, the one that Donald Trump ended up going to in the movie.
Yeah,
and that school also wasn't great at seeing you for who you were either. Maybe a little better. But
prejudice definitely is part of it.
Yes, I think there's so much more in the school my kids go to. Thankfully, so much awareness about diversity and equality. That's a big thing there, and I think they're definitely putting their, not just talking about it, but actually doing it. So I'm really happy with that.
Well, you did a great job, and it's a very moving film, and it's got a lot of powerful messages too, which we don't always get to see in a film.
Right.
So, good
and you know what?
Wow.
I think it's funny. I think it's funny too. I mean, I think some people forget there's some parts that are really funny in the movie. It's not just
because the characters we can all relate to, whether it's a 11, 12-year-old boy or a harassed, overworked teacher, or parents who are trying to do the best they can do, and they also have limited means. So someone can relate to almost everything in this film, and it makes a difference. So congratulations.
Great.
All the best to you, Andrew, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, Joan. Always nice to talk to you.
Enjoyed it. Good luck. I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC. That was Andrew Polk, Armageddon Time, and much more after this.
The First Lady of New York Radio.
This is Ask Joan.
We've barely finished our Thanksgiving leftovers when the city is filled with Christmas. It actually started before Thanksgiving, but now the bright lights, the wreaths, the department store fantastic window displays are up. Wednesday, November 30th, the tree lighting, the 90th annual lighting ceremony. And if you can't get in, don't worry about it. You can see it live on NBC at 8 o'clock. Now, there are two places that if you haven't been, you want to make this a new tradition: the New York Botanical Gardens and Bryant Park. The Botanical Gardens Holiday Train Show and NYBG Glow, 2900 Southern Boulevard in the Bronx, is definitely worth doing. nybg.org, 718-817-8700. The train show actually runs until Monday the 16th, and NYBG Glow is selected evenings through January 14th. Train show is spectacular, and it's been literally one of the big sites that people come to New York City for. Been going on for over 30 years. More than 190 model trains zipping past New York City landmarks that they have created and recreated from natural materials. It's leaves and seeds and twigs and barks and acorns, cinnamon sticks and pine cone scales. Tickets $35 for adults, $20 for children, 12 and under. And if you explore the Botanical Gardens at dark with the third season of NYBG Glow, you can discover the beauty of this landscape and historic buildings. It's the city's largest outdoor holiday light experience. They have a new display of 60 glowing orbs in the water feature of the Natural Plant Garden. Beverages, light fare, they have outdoor bars, and a Bronx Night Market pop-up. Tickets are quite reasonable, and you can get tickets for both the Glow and the Train show combined, and also the holiday shops at Bryant Park. They're available now, and ice skating. If you bring your own skates, it's free. And then we love the holiday shop event. Over 170 artisanal vendors in custom-designed jewel box kiosks, local crafts, exquisite gifts, wonderful food, and we love the rink. The ice skating rink is free if you bring your own skates. The best thing to do is book a time to skate. All you have to go to is bryantpark.org. And if you don't have skates, you can book rentals online. And there's a lodge right around the rink where you can enjoy food and drinks and watch the skaters. So holidays are here. Christmas is saying hello. Come enjoy the best that the city has to offer. And by the way, we are now coming right up to the 3 o'clock. So I'm so happy to have you with me. And I hope you loved your Thanksgiving, and you're now going to be ready to celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas. Enjoy it all.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.